We're ready for the next section. All right, and we're going to do science with table. Here's how I know it has a table. But we're not going to look at the table. We never, ever, 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 ever look at the table until we know why we're looking at the table. Again, another thing that you will see in the room is kids that, start to look at the table before they look at the questions. You always want to look at the questions first to know why you're looking back at the table. So please, please, please keep that in mind. Science. Every single time you have a science, you're looking for the hypothesis. That is the reason for the questions. You want to read for theme, as we always do, meaning what's it overall about, why did the author write it, but you really, really want to find the hypothesis. And when you do find the hypothesis, bracket it. So I'm going to just show you an example. Like I haven't read this yet, so I don't know exactly where it is, but I'm just going to say somewhere around in this area. We're talking paragraph 3, 4, depending on how small the paragraphs are, 3, 4, 5. Bracket, make explanation points, like bring your attention to that hypothesis. The questions revolve around the hypothesis. And essentially, isn't that what research is anyway? So if you don't remember, this science, and every science section is going to follow that typical scientific method. We're going to have, kind of an introduction of a problem, and then we're going to have an introduction to some researchers, and then we're going to see the hypothesis, and then we're going to get in a little bit into research design, a little bit of their findings, and then what's going to happen next. And the questions for SAT revolve around the hypothesis. There's guaranteed a question about what's going to happen next. It's on every science. What are we going to do now? Now that we know this, what are we going to do with it? And of course, it's never to put it into a drawer and close the drawer. We definitely want to read for the purpose of what's going to happen next, but we don't ever find that until the very end anyway. All right, so here's the other thing to think about with science is, and I'm just going to start off with an example, not to bore you, but the last packet that I studied with, it was all about the very first few sentences told us that there has to be something going on with animals that hibernate because their arteries don't get clogged and their muscles don't go into atrophy. So we have to really research this phenomenon that goes on with animals that hibernate. But they said it much more succinctly than that. It was in 1 or 2 sentences. But it was all about the muscles don't go into atrophy. And it could have, the research could have implications on things like muscular dystrophy. That was the first paragraph. Very succinct. And then the rest of it, like the entire thing, was about bears. All about bears. Everything we wanted to know about bears. And bears and their hibernating methods and all that kind of thing. And then the final, paragraph said what is going to happen with the research about heart disease and muscular dystrophy. The passage wasn't about bears. They were just using bears as an example for a greater research thing. So a long way for me to say, don't take science for face value. Find the hypothesis. Find why they're doing that research. Why is the research important? They're not going to put it on here because it's interesting, but they are going to put it on here because it's important. So really focus on that. And if it seems like it's all about bears, it's not about bears. So let's see what this one's about. And hopefully it'll, bring light to our example, what I'm trying to have you think about. Hypothesis, theme, what are we doing next with this research? That's the reasons why we're reading. I'm going to push pause so you don't have to sit here and watch me read. And when we come together, you will see that my text will be all marked I hope yours is too. I will have written the hypothesis up here, although you don't have time to do that. Just find it down here in the reading. But I do want you to write the theme so that we can discuss and make sure that you didn't write bears. All right, well, I'll be right back. Go read. I'm done reading. It looks different now, right? I hope so. Okay. Yes, it was like my example. So this wasn't about wolves. This was not about elk. This wasn't about berries, white bark pine nuts, or about berries. It wasn't about beavers. It wasn't about beetles. It was about the ecological effects of reintroducing top predators. I stole that from the first sentence. Okay, so that's what it was all about. So they gave us a lot of examples about the wolves and the elk and white bark pine nuts. And they gave us all these examples of things that started to thrive and other things that were preyed upon after the reintroduction of top predators. So that's what it really was all about. They just gave us a lot of examples about what happened. I found the hypothesis on line 19. The reintroduction of one top predator is potentially affecting another top predator through this food web. So when I read that, the word potential was the big like ding, 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 got it, found it, I got it, because that's another way of asking a question. This could potentially go like this, or this could potentially go like that. So that's where I found the hypothesis. I text marked a lot, and then I found in paragraph 65 what we're going to do next with it. So the researcher feels like that it needs to go bigger. It needs to be much more holistic, at-large mammal or predator management. So this little bit of information going on in Yellowstone National Park needs to go viral. Of course the scientists would think that. Of course they would. We gotta think about Sheldon. Okay, so let's start looking at the questions. We will never, ever, 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 ever look at the table until we know why we're looking at the table. We don't know why we're looking at the table, so we're not looking at the table. We're jumping into the questions. The main purpose of the passage is to discuss an ecological phenomenon. Ecological, yes. Ecological, I haven't had ecology in a long time, but they said it was. They said it was an ecological. Now, the word phenomenon is going to throw a lot of people, but it's just another big way of saying like something's going on. Ooh, something's going on. So yeah, I like that one, an ecological phenomenon. Analyzing scientific experiment. We never got into really any analysis in the reading. So the main purpose of the passage, I don't care if the analysis happens up here. They didn't get into it in the reading. So no. Oops. Resolve an environmental debate. Didn't happen. Draw attention to a historic discovery. Not historic, it was in real time. Discuss an ecological phenomenon. That word phenomenon catches a lot of students. They don't want to pick it because they think that means something bigger, but it just means, hey, something's going on. There's a phenomenon going on outside right now. It's windy. According to the passage, what was a direct result of the drop in the elk population at Yellowstone National Park? Direct result in the drop of the elk population. Well, we can answer that, right? Because what were the elk? Direct result of the drop in the elk population. Yeah. So there was a drop in elk. Investigation of the grizzly bear. No. The direct result of the elk was not an investigation in the grizzly bear population. A decrease in the number of aspen trees. A drop in the elk population decreased. I remember them talking about aspen trees, but I don't think it was because of the elk population. But I won't get rid of it because I'm not 100% sure, but I won't get rid of it. As the elk population dropped, there was an increase in fruit-bearing plants. I do remember that, so I'm going to keep that. A surge in the wolf population. drop in the elk population, and then there was a surge in the wolf population. Okay, so the reason why I'm hemming and hawing about this one, okay, the wolf were reintroduced, the elk dropped as a result of that, but I don't think we could say it was a surge in the wolf population. Drop in elk. No, the wolf were introduced first, and then the elk dropped. It's not the other way around. A decrease in the number of aspen trees or increase in fruit-bearing plants. If I was running out of time, I'd choose C right now, but what do I need to remember about aspen? What do I need to remember about aspen? Where is aspen? And why am I getting stuck on this? I'm wasting time right now. Don't do this on the test. But what do I have to remember about aspen? Where is aspen? You're probably telling me where it is right now. Okay, when wolves returned and drove down the elk numbers, scientists saw a resurgence of aspen, cottonwood, and willows in some parts of the park that has led to an increase in beavers. Okay, no, so no, so that's wrong. Okay. Sorry. Which choice provides the best evidence to the following question? Okay, evidence question, we can narrow it down. Can we narrow it down? Can we narrow it down? Ooh. No. Okay, so here's the reason. This is what I'm thinking. No, this is why. There's another evidence question after. Going with this one. I can't be certain that I have even started to pick up on the question order rule yet, meaning the questions are going to go in order of the reading. I don't even know what it is yet. I'm going to guess it's going to be, since we're looking for evidence for question 2, so this question is going to come from probably A or B, because we're not going to jump down to line 42 and 49, because that would mean all the questions after are from line 42 to 46 or 49 to 50. In fact, well, this one is. Anyway, question order rule isn't going to work with this one. We can't do that. But I am just going to start from the top because we are working our way down. And what are we looking for? We're looking for the best evidence that says an increase in fruit-bearing plants. A study to what? Result of the drop in elk population. So the drop, that's what I'm looking for. Direct result of the drop in the elk population. What was the direct result of the drop in the elk population? A study to what? Line 6 to 7. A study published in the journal, essentially tale of who is what. As cute as that sentence is, that doesn't even tell us anything. The overbrowsed to hibernation. The overbrowsed plants began to rebound. Ooh, isn't that what we're looking for? Fruit-bearing plants? The overbrowsed plants began to rebound, including berry-producing shrubs that provide nutritious summer meals for grizzlies when they are fattened up for hibernation. Perfect evidence. Perfect evidence. And because, again, just for the sake of time, don't want to waste time, we're in question number 2. That just gave me perfect evidence for an increase in fruit-bearing plants. I'm not going to continue on. I'm going to move on to the next question because I don't want to waste time. According to the passage, one potential challenge to the survival of the grizzly bear population in Yellowstone National Park is the shortage of one potential challenge to the survival of the grizzly bear population. Okay, so what are the grizzly bears eating? They're not eating elk. I don't think I remember that it's beetles. Are they eating cottonwood trees? Or white bark trees? I am going to have to look back for this one. Challenge to the survival of the grizzly bear. Okay, so where did we read about beetles, cottonwood trees, and white bark? I'm just looking for... Oh, there's aspens. Aspens decline after wolves, willows, and some parts of the park, increase in beavers. the case of the grizzly, the paper's authors said increasing berry production could help make up for loss of another bear food threatened by climate change, white bark pine nuts. Found it. I wish I had marked that, but I didn't. I wouldn't have never guessed that was a question. Which choice provides the best evidence for the answer to the following questions? Okay, so you just watched me. I went back. I looked. I got the answer right. I know I did because we found the answer. Since we found the answer, I'm going to go back and look and see where I just read. Where did I just read? And so we're in line 50, 53, 54, 55. And then I'm just going to match 50, yeah. I'm just going to match that because that's where I found it. In line, yes, used in line 10, browsed most nearly means. Get rid of it completely, totally forget what it is. And then we'll read the sentence. When wolves were introduced to the park in 1995 after a 70-year absence, they preyed on elk herds that ate trees and shrubs. Fed on trees and shrubs. That makes sense, right? Ate and fed on. So we're looking for ate and fed on. Inspected? No, that's not ate or fed on. Skimmed? No. Destroyed? Well, they ate or fed on, grazed. When you're grazing, you're eating. Which choice most closely captures the meaning of the figurative big silver bullet referred to in line 61? Interesting. Before we look back, can we narrow it down? Tempting choice, definitive solution, or dangerous event? I'm going to guess that it is not D. And not B. Just because I don't remember anything about an unexpected outcome or a dangerous event, but let's look back. Ripple cautioned that it will take time for berry-producing shrubs to regrow. It may not be a panacea or a big silver bullet as a food item for the grizzlies. All right, so here's the deal. What I just did automatically was think, I don't know how many of my students would know what a panacea was. And we're trying to figure out what a big silver bullet was, right? So, and how they're using it in this context. My brain just went automatically into a most nearly means, like make it into a most nearly means. So Ripple caution that it will take time for berry producing shrubs to grow. It may not be a cure as a food item for the grizzlies. A panacea is a cure. I don't often use big silver bullet, or I don't hear it often, so I'm not 100% sure that but because of the word or, when I'm trying to figure out a word using context clues, and an or are the words that mean that this and this mean the same thing. So panacea means big silver bullet, and big silver bullet means panacea. And so I know a panacea is like an aspirin that fixes stuff. And it seems to work in the context. So Ripple caution that it will take time for berry producing shrubs to regrow. It may not be a cure as a food item for the grizzlies. So let's see if we have one of those options. Which choice most closely captures the meaning of the figurative big silver bullet referred to in line 61? Unexpected outcome, tempting choice, solution, dangerous event, definitive solution. I just talked a lot through that. I hope you understand why I was talking you through that. I really want you to get through that faster. But I needed to explain what was going on in my head. The main purpose of the final paragraph of the passage. Oh, we're already toward the end? No. We only have 3 more questions. The main purpose of the final paragraph of the passage is to advise the reader of some potential limitations of Ripple's conclusions about the nutritional needs of the grizzly bear. I'm not looking back. That's not true. There's potential. No. Nutritional needs of the no. Sorry. Extend the implications of the relationship between wolves and grizzlies in a particular environment to other animals and contexts. Isn't that what we talked about? Yes. Describe a certain experiment that Ripple will be undertaking in the future to corroborate his findings. I don't remember them talking about a certain experiment that he's going to do next. Do you? Suggest that the potential ramifications of reintroducing another species into an already fragile ecosystem is B all day long. We answered that question before. I love it. And now we're at the table. Okay, let's get through this fast. Table's meant to be fast. According to the table, the wolf-elk ratio experienced a decrease between which of the following years? Now we know why we're looking. As soon as I look, I see wolf-elk ratio. This is the only thing we're looking at. And we're looking for a decrease between what years? There's an increase. There's a decrease. There's an increase. There's an increase. There's an increase. There's an increase between the years of 99 and 2000. 99 and 2000. It's that simple. Which choice from the passage is most directly supported by the data given in the table? Ooh, interesting. Okay. Elk numbers. Before I look, I'm trying to narrow it down. You know what I'm doing. I'm trying to narrow it down. Thank you for understanding what I'm doing. Elk numbers in Yellowstone National Park showed an overall decline as a result of the introduction of wolves. True statement. Elk numbers in Yellowstone National Park. Yes, because the wolves fed on the elk. Elk numbers in Yellowstone National Park declined every year following the introduction of wolves. Possibly. Can't get rid of that. Elk numbers in Yellowstone National Park in any given year decreased as the ratios of wolves to elk increased. That's plausible. No, that's not plausible. I reread that last part. Okay, they're saying elk numbers decreased as the ratio of wolves to elk increased. This number cannot decrease while this number is increasing, and it's about elk, so no. Elk numbers in Yellowstone National Park stabilized after an initial decline as wolf population numbers stabilized. Elk numbers in Yellowstone National Park stabilized after initial decline as wolf population numbers stabilized. Okay, so if the wolf numbers are stabilizing, elk numbers are still decreasing though. That's just what I'm thinking. Okay, so what are we looking at? Elk numbers in Yellowstone National Park showed an overall decline as a result of the introduction of wolves. That's very plausible. If I was running out of time, I would probably just choose that one because that just makes sense. Okay, overall decline as a result of the introduction of wolves. Okay, here's the elk count. Wolf numbers, they were introduced. Here's 21. They didn't have any data. 11. There's an increase. Elk numbers showed an overall decline. Okay, so, okay. Because that's an increase too. Decline, 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 decline. Okay, so I have 3 inclines and then a decline. Ooh, that's a big surge in numbers there. Decline, 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 decline. So overall decline, that one's true. Elk numbers in Yellowstone National Park declined every year following the introduction of wolves. We just proved that was not true because they went up the first 3 years, but then they gradually declined as the wolf numbers went up. So that one's not true. Elk numbers in Yellowstone National Park stabilized after an initial decline. That's not true. There was the initial decline. They certainly didn't stabilize. So after that, A is the correct answer. That's not that hard, right? It's not that difficult. If you know what you're looking for, of course it's easier that I'm talking to myself, but if I was in the test, I'd be talking to myself in my head anyway. So, and maybe I'd be glad that I had on a mask because you would definitely see myself talking like, ooh, yeah, I could totally get away with talking to myself like this because people wouldn't see. All right, so that is it for science. Like, again, 9 times out of 10, if I have a student, they say, oh, I just cannot focus on the science parts. But if you really, really focus, it's not that you're focusing on the science parts, it's that you're focusing on the hypothesis and what's going to happen next. Thank you for studying with me.